Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 440th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have from Canada with love, Mr. Jeff White. Smart dude, really narrowed in his niche. It took him years. We get into that. And what got him to narrow his focus and what the results have been. And it's a safe bet. They were good. We'll talk about how good on this episode. And, I'm going to chalk up a couple of things to this coronavirus. If you hear some drilling going on, it's my wife and son installing a new hose reel in the front of the house. I didn't know they were going to be doing that, but it's happening. Maybe the dog will bark. We shall see. We finally have some decent weather, a break in the weather for a moment. So they're doing that. I got to run in today. Man, I've been running 10 out of 12 days. I don't know what's going on, man. Just can't do jiu-jitsu, so I'm running. It's crazy. And then the last 2 days, because of rain, I did jumping jacks. So, I'm going to chalk all that up, getting out of sorts here as to why my audio isn't great on this. And it is, I think, actually Zoom has been overwhelmed with this coronavirus, but they're handling it. It's been pretty cool seeing them step up to the plate. The transcriptions have been taking longer, but that is back to pretty much normal as far as I can tell, but a lot of updates. So when I went to hit record, I didn't have my main mic like you hear me now, big, deep resonance. It was just my internal mic on my iMac. So I sound a little, I don't know, like I'm on speakerphone. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Jeff's is good. He's got his act together. I'm still just turned 50. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not quite sure what I want to be when I grow up. We shall see. But nonetheless, good interview. Hearing how he narrowed things down. Like I said, we talk about specialize so you can diagnose and prescribe with speed. I love his approach that B2B sales is still person to person. I've always said that, Wes, ain't nothing personal, it's just business. It's like BS. I take it personally. So, right or wrong, that's how I roll. So, you're in for a treat. Good episode with Jeff. And if you need some help, I'm still running the special, 30daysalesgrowth.com, promo code April. Get you half off. Okay, you can pick month to month, you can pick annual, whatever. And that 50% applies. Okay, now's the time to double down and invest in yourself. And regardless of what you do in sales and marketing, it's all sales. I've always said marketing is just selling in print. Knowing how to get someone's attention, get them to open your email, to respond, to call, to visit your website. When we do open stores, get them to come back in. You write a letter, getting them to open the letter, read the letter, follow the instructions. It's all sales. So come join us, 30daysalesgrowth.com. All right. Now let's bring on Jeff. Jeff White, all the way from Halifax, Nova Scotia, founder of Kula Partners. Man, welcome to the Global Pandemic Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing really well, except for this whole being completely isolated in my home thing. But, we'll get through that.
Oh, come on. I got 7 kids. You got 3 kids. You were asking for more time with your kids. Admit it.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
God just has a sense of humor. He's like, here you go. You get a lot more time with your kids.
Here, deal with this.
Okay, note to self. Be more specific with my goal setting. Oh, my goodness. Man, so you've got a nice little, I don't know, it could be big. I don't know, nice agency, right? You do a lot of work with HubSpot. And so you're specifically working in the B2B space, right?
Yeah, we are an agency that services B2B manufacturers specifically, and generally those located within North America. So we've been working with companies of that sort. The agency's been around, I think we're in our 17th year now. But so the agency's been around that long. We've been working with manufacturers specifically for about 3 years. And we work with their marketing and sales teams to help them really get a handle on who they're selling to and what the specific challenges are. And as you mentioned, we're a HubSpot partner. We've been one of HubSpot's partners. We were their first platinum partner in Canada, I think. So we've been with them about a decade. And recently we became the first partner with Terminus, the account-based advertising platform for manufacturers. We're the first partner for manufacturers within their organization. So pretty interesting, some cool technology tools to bring to the clients we work with and for ourselves as well.
Very cool. So, well, this is interesting. So let's talk about niching. So were you just a broad-based marketing agency for those 14 years? And like, what led you to niching, and how has that helped you grow?
It's a really great question, actually. I think so. For the longest time, when I started the agency in 2004, my background is in web design and development, so that was kind of where the agency was and what we did. And then my business partner, Carmen Perry, came on in 2009, and he brought a real marketing and sales ability to that, and so we began to do more broad-based strategy work and that kind of thing. Began working with HubSpot shortly after that. And for a while, our niche or niche, if you're in Canada, we were the inbound partner with HubSpot that could build stuff. So if you had e-commerce and you needed to connect that to your ERP platform or to your CRM or your marketing automation platform, we were the agency that could do that. So we would do that for just about anybody who had those kinds of requirements. It was what some would refer to as a horizontal positioning. So we had a technology stack that we could work with and help companies within that. And we realized that after a while, a lot of those things became commoditized. So web design has been commoditized. I mean, I get probably 20 emails a day from people offering to build me websites for next to nothing. Inbound marketing became commoditized, and the HubSpot side of things, there were a whole lot more partners out there that could do that. And what once allowed us to reach customers throughout North America kind of started to quiet down a little bit, and we realized we needed to focus more and we need to become experts. And so we work with an agency consultant, a guy named David C. Baker out of Nashville, Tennessee. And David helped us to kind of realize who we were doing good work for and what we could or what industry we could focus on. And we decided on this B2B industrial manufacturing vertical. And we started really going down that road, like I say, about 3 years ago. And it's been really interesting because I think, you think that that's going to be rather limiting, to only have customers of a certain size or within a specific vertical or whatever. But in fact, it's been the opposite. It's allowed us to really develop a keen sense of expertise about what the clients and the customers in that vertical require. We see a lot of the same thing over and over again, especially in terms of what their sales problems are. For example, we see a lot of the same issues with their marketing departments. That they have perhaps large internal teams, but they need support on custom things and specific things, and we're able to help with that. And part of kind of the learning for that, we started our own podcast about 2 years ago now called The Cooler Ring, and it's basically conversations with manufacturing marketers about their specific challenges and successes and stuff like that. And that has allowed us to really broaden our expertise in it and really develop a deep understanding of the vertical and the issues within it.
Cool. So when you were doing this kind of self-evaluation, how did you settle on that? Did you just coincidentally have a lot of manufacturing clients and you just hadn't really picked up on it, or did you like it and kind of chose that path?
I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. I mean, we had a handful of manufacturers that we were already working with that were selling in a B2B capacity, and we felt that we had made a pretty significant difference to them. We had some other mini verticals to kind of choose from as well. Like we used to do a lot of work with orthodontists, for example. Like it's amazing. If you want to be an agency that works with orthodontists, all you need to know is that you need to do paid search and drive to a cost calculator, and you can basically print money with that. We were doing I don't know, 30 to 1 ROI on orthodontists, and just driving people into the chair at at their practices. But the trouble with orthodontists is they're spending their own money, and they're not very sophisticated marketers. So eventually they just think that they can do it themselves once you set the program up for you, and they ditch you. So they're not particularly good at sticking with the marketers that have helped bring them that success. But whereas manufacturers, that game continues to evolve constantly. Our manufacturing clients, we've had some that have been with us for half a decade or more, and they just continue to have new challenges. They continue to, even though most of them, like us, have a finite number of potential clients or customers they can work with, the requirements to get into those accounts and to get an understanding of what those people require and how they move through their buyer's journey is very, very sophisticated, and requires a lot of extra work and a lot of research and a lot of continuing to kind of see what's out there in terms of technology, like account-based advertising and tools like that are becoming much more important for them to be able to reach the target accounts that they're going after. And it's made that side of things really, it's made the potential for what we can do and the return that we can bring for these manufacturers even bigger.
Cool. So, yeah, I mean, having a client base that doesn't fire you is certainly helping. So that's a smart move. Get away from the orthodontist.
Yeah.
So in the B2B space, I mean, so 17 years you've been through. So 04, things still weren't great, right? We were starting to recover from the .com bust, but obviously the 2008 meltdown, and now we've got the coronavirus meltdown. So I mean, you've been through some good and bad times. What have you seen? Like, what's remained consistent? Like, what those that made it through and even thrived, have you seen any common actions that they took?
I think the single most common thing that I've seen amongst those that have made it and those that have continued to thrive and prosper even in difficult times, and I mean, I don't want it to sound self-serving at all, but it really is those people who are able to roll with the punches, to look at what's next, to double down on the marketing and the outreach that is working. And at the end of the day, even B2B sales is still person to person. So you really do need to kind of continue to reach out to the prospects you're talking to. You need to understand what their requirements are, understand that they're going through some stuff as well, that they're probably having a lot of the same problems that you may be, and that at times like this, we need to know that, hey, we can help each other. There's things that we can do to ensure that our businesses continue to grow and thrive. And the ones that really do understand that and create content and continue to market in new and interesting ways are the ones that are going to come out on the other side of this. It's the same thing with R&D. A lot of the manufacturers that we work with are constantly working on new products. And now is not the time for them to let up on that engineering and on that research that is going to drive the next product that they're going to bring out. They need to be able to stay on top of that and not pull back from that kind of thing. I realize that can be difficult, especially when you have a big payroll, but this is what we've got to do, and we've got to try and ride this out.
Right. Can big B2B sales happen in a remote, virtual climate?
Oh, I think so. We've worked with a number of our clients to do exactly that. So we work with think of a packaging manufacturer that we work with that makes pet food and frozen food packaging, and they've gone from having a large outside sales team that was used to visiting those target accounts to growing an inside sales team who are, they're sitting at their desk right now, I'm sure, doing the exact same thing they normally do, which is to figure out what the needs of their prospects are, developing those target account lists, crafting content that is specific to the requirements and the needs and the issues that their customers are having, and they're working through sales and call and social media outreach to those prospects, and also doing advertising into them to support that. So I think that there is definitely an opportunity to be able to continue to do most of those sales virtually, and to maybe we used to be so arrogant as to think we never needed to travel to close business at all, and sometimes that was certainly true. And I think we'll probably get back to a point where we do need to kind of travel to close business. But for now, and for the foreseeable future, a lot of business is going to be conducted entirely online and over the phone. And I think, that we've never had a better set of tools with which to do that than, the current crop of video conferencing and everything else, just like we're doing now. And that's really going to help these companies continue to weather this storm. I think a lot of them are going to need help trying to understand how to do it, though. We're working with a quasi-governmental organization here to try and help the manufacturers and other businesses in Atlantic Canada and Nova Scotia to really begin to implement some of these similar kinds of programs to understand how they can begin to sell remotely. How do they break into that? How do they define who their target accounts are? I mean, an awful lot of organizations simply don't know who they can possibly sell to. If you were to ask most businesses, who are the top 10 accounts that you'd love to target, very few of them could actually tell you the names of those companies and any information about them. But that's the kind of place that we need to get to, where we've done the research, we know who those accounts are, we know what their pain points are, we know who the different potential buyers within that. Gartner has been saying for years that the size of the B2B buying committee is getting larger and larger. I think they're up to like 14 people now or something like that in a B2B sale. That those are the number of people that are involved, from the C-suite to procurement to the engineers and whoever else is in that sales discussion. So you're not going to be able to do those kinds of sales in person anymore. You're going to need to figure out what are the needs of the people at each one of those points in their buying journey, and you're going to have to craft content to answer their questions and objections and requirements along the way. And that's how sales is going to start to be done.
Yeah. So in your time, even if we fast forward to when you brought your partner on, so the last 10 years or even the last 3, when you've got this focus, have you been able to do most of those remotely even before all this new chaos? Or would you spend time face-to-face, in person?
Almost all of our clients have been brought on remotely. We've sold a few things that we've gone out and met them at the final hour and try and close the business in person. But for the most part, our business is one and done remotely. Our team work entirely remotely and service those clients that way. We rarely get together unless we happen to run into them at conferences or things like that. But yeah, I think for the most part, you really can, run a business that doesn't require any person-to-person contact. It's really just a matter of getting that planning done and truly understanding what it is that those people need, so that you can get it to them in a more digital fashion. Or, I mean, there's also mail and couriers for delivering things to help move people along the way.
So in other words, you've only worn pants 3 days in the last 3 years. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we usually work from an office, so I have to get dressed. Otherwise,
That'd
there'll be issues. But it's generally frowned upon.
You're the boss. You can do what you want, man. Come on.
Yeah, I suppose. I had the business mullet, like business up top, party down below.
That's awesome. So I, been reading up on things, and I've, a month ago, I sent my regular newsletter out, and I was saying, hey, these changes with the coronavirus and whatever, it's exposing our weaknesses. I see manufacturing growing, things like 3D printing and artificial intelligence, things like that, shortening the supply chain, tweaks from the whole just-in-time inventory, because we've been exposed, right? You got things, not only does, America, like something like 97% of our pharmaceuticals are coming from China. But those nose swabs, I was just reading on this. The guy was like, I don't want to get the coronavirus because I don't want the test. They take some long Q-tip and like jam it all the way into your nose, so like to the back of your sinus cavity. They're like, those come from Milan, Italy. Right? So we've got these critical things. And I guess before that, something like 90-something% or 75% of IV bags were made in Puerto Rico, right? And then a hurricane hits. So and this guy in Australia is like, now's not the time to be, I don't even know the words, xenophobic or whatever. I'm like, dude, it just is, right? Your critical stuff has to be made closer to home, and which we're now seeing. Were you seeing a trend in that before, and or do you think that is going to be the trend moving forward?
I'd be lying if I said I've seen a trend towards that, and certainly with our clients and things like that. I wouldn't want to suggest that I'm that prescient to be able to understand that was coming. But I agree with you, and I do think that some of our clients are certainly seeing the need to more completely understand their supply chain and be able to ensure that they can manage as much of it on their own as possible. So whether that's finding multiple suppliers, some who are closer to home, bringing things internally is certainly a real trend that we're seeing amongst manufacturers, especially with 3D printing and 3D imaging are allowing companies to begin to prototype the things that they used to buy. I also think that there's probably and we're going to see a fair amount of M&A activity in the manufacturing space. We already are. I mean, certainly most of the people that we talk to have been through at least one acquisition in the last year. We had a company on the podcast a couple of months ago called Promoc, and they do one a month. They manufacture printing machinery and things like that, and they've been buying companies at a crazy rate. I think they've acquired over 20 in the last 5 years, and they're just continuing to accelerate that. So I think you're going to see a lot of.
If they're in a good financial position, they'll probably acquire 50 in the next year.
Entirely possible, yeah.
We'll just see who was positioned and who wasn't, and there are opportunities amidst this chaos. You could even argue the only time there's really good opportunities is in chaos. So,
yeah. I mean, I remember in the downturn, 2008, 2009, Steve Jobs was quoted as saying, now's not the time to let up on R&D. Now's not the time to let up on that marketing. It really is the time to double down on that, because the companies that do that are the ones that are going to come out the other end stronger, as I was saying earlier. It's difficult, of course, to compare yourself to someone in a cash position like Apple. But, I think we can certainly all take lessons from that and begin to understand, how can you protect your company? How can you protect your business line? How can you protect your supply chain? And how can you ensure that you're continuing to seed those sales into the future, so that the people that you're going to want to talk to are ready to talk to you, and that they're aware of your presence. So, what's that marketing strategy for getting on their radar early? Because as we know, a significant portion of sales happens before the company even necessarily knows that they're being researched. So, you need to be putting content out there that is helping to inform people when they're at that first 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% of the way along a sales process, when they're starting to just evaluate solutions. If your only call to action on your website is, get in touch, contact us when you need some information about sales, and you're not providing any ebooks or content or webinars about the decisions that need to be made much earlier on in that process, you're going to have a hard time. You really need to be aware of the fact that by the time you've heard of somebody, they've already evaluated you and are significantly down that funnel or process as it goes.
Yep. Amen. So, talking about that though, what works now? Because people are like, oh, Inbound selling is dead. Email marketing is dead. SEO is dead. I mean, everything's dead. Like, I don't even know, like, how are we even living? Because everything's dead. You know? Is SEO still a thing? Is inbound marketing still a thing?
I think to the extent that, I mean, the thing with SEO is, and I've had a love-hate relationship with this idea, not with SEO itself, but with the SEO industry, is that everybody talks about this as a thing that you need to do, a strategy you need to have. And to a certain extent you do. I mean, you need to have a content strategy that's set up, in order to be able to be thinking about the things that you're going to be doing with your marketing spend over the next little while and how that might benefit you from a search perspective. But the whole point of creating content is to help people. It's to help people understand what it is that they need to do, to help people understand what it is that your product does and what problems it solves. It's not about gaming that keyword or figuring out, exactly, what that particular long tail strategy is or whatever. It's really about what is it that your organization provides, creates, services, whatever your solution is, and how can you help others who are in a similar position to the other clients and customers that you've worked with, and then create something that is going to help people to understand how they can formulate a solution for themselves. It's not about crafting something and spamming it full of 9 instances of the keyword that you want to be found for. It's about writing content for humans. Content that succeeds in search also succeeds with people. And if it doesn't succeed with people, it's probably not going to succeed in search. So I think we need to continue to create content. I think we need to continue to put in place inbound methodologies, but they're not the only thing that you need to do. You really need to understand, who are you selling to? What do they need? How can you help? When are they looking at this? Because chances are, like I said before, by the time you've heard of them, they've been looking at you for 6 months, 8 months, it could be even longer. We see some clients that suggest that their sales cycles are 18 months to 2 years. But they only found out about who this client was 3 months before they were ready to sign. But that's because they've already done all that work. And how much did you do to help them as they were moving through that process will determine how much you get to play for the work that's out there and for that business. It really is about helping.
You're so Canadian, man. Look, this is the Cutthroat Sales Podcast. Okay, I got to talk to your people and my people, and this is all wrong, man. Come on, I'm helping myself. Don't I just sell, just get as much money from them as I can?
I think we could try that, but I think it's certainly been the case that that hard sell doesn't necessarily move. Certainly not in complex sales. People still buy from people. Like I was saying, they're not going, if they don't like you, they're probably not going to continue to work with you, and they're certainly not going to want to buy from somebody that they don't think is in it for the same reasons that they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, right? The hard sell, when you're dealing with 14 people, they're going to bubble things up. They're like, "Hey, I really like that guy. I hated that cheese ball. Good grief!" I mean, it's like,
yeah, and you'll never please everybody. There's no question about that.
Right, but you can start if you rub one wrong, and they're adamant about not doing business with you. It's tough, and I've always said something like 95% of the sale happens after you leave.
Yeah.
You're not living with them, right? Even if you give a 2-hour presentation, well, there's 38 more hours in that week alone.
Yep.
So
yeah.
A lot of stuff happens. You're not there. So,
yeah.
Do you see, like in business, do people put their real info, are they putting in fake info? Let me just get the report I don't want to be followed up with, or, are people still pretty honest with that? And you can still follow up with them.
I think we, what's interesting about that, and that's kind of where, that sales process, the inbound marketing methodology kind of falls down a bit, because I think people are getting a little tired of giving up their info in order to download that ebook. We've taken to actually ungating a lot of the content that we're producing, and same with the content that we're creating for clients. They're not necessarily putting everything behind a sign up, or they might be putting it behind a sign up for the general browser that comes to their site. But if they're doing targeted account-based advertising, they may open that stuff up. So, people are doing different things with that kind of content. And I think, those who are truly interested will give up their name and email address in order to get that. But the other part of it too is that as salespeople, we need to be more proactive. We need to be going out and figuring out who the people are who may want to get our stuff, and finding out their contact information, and then gently reaching out in appropriate ways, using account-based advertising, using social media. I mean, everybody likes to harp on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is awesome. Like, done right, LinkedIn works better than almost anything. And I think too, there are ways to get on people's radar that are not pushy, that are not that are not leading with a sales pitch. One of the things that we've been able to do with our podcast is we create our target account lists of the companies we want to work with, and then we use the podcast as a vehicle for reaching out to them. Like, hey man, I think you're doing some really cool stuff, and I'd love to have you as a guest on my podcast. You can't get more chill of an outreach than that. And the response rate is insane. Like, we get 30 to 40% of the people we ask to join us on our show. And these are all people that are in our target prospect list. And we may not turn a ton of them into sales immediately, but they didn't even know who we were before we reached out like that. So if you can co-create content with the prospects that you'd like to sell to, I mean, that is a really powerful strategy for beginning to connect with more of the people who are in your target market.
Yeah. So you've mentioned account-based targeting a couple of times, and I haven't had anybody mention that in a long time. Can you share a little insight on that? Because I got to imagine, I bet a bunch of my listeners don't know what the heck that is.
Sure. So, I mean, what we're doing when we're talking about target account-based outreach or target account marketing is to, once you've defined who your ideal customer profile is, we call it the ICP, which is generally made up of demographic information about the personas that are within the organizations that you're looking to target, the firmographic information about the companies that you're looking to target. So what size are they? Where are they located? What industry are they in? All those different things. You can begin to compile a target account profile that you can use to go into tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, like Zoom Info and others, and begin to pull lists of accounts that are in that category that meet your target client profile. And then you can decide, how do we want to break this down? Are we going to reach out to these companies with one type of ask, and we're going to hit this other group with some targeted advertising about a particular resource that we may have that would be interesting to them? Basically it's a way of organizing the accounts and working through the companies that you want to go after in a very repeatable fashion. So, at any given time, we've got 40 target accounts that we're working through a process with, where we're doing advertising to them, we're doing podcast-based outreach to them. We may be doing specific outreach about, right now we're doing an awful lot of outreach around account-based marketing. So we have a number of resources, podcasts, and other things that are available, and we have a list of people that have shown some kind of interest in that, either through intent data or signing up to a webinar that we've participated in or whatever. And then we're serving ads into that group and bringing them back to our site to see the resources that we've created, and then beginning to try to move them through that sales process.
Oh, I was muted. That includes looking at, like running, like, will you run an ad and only, like LinkedIn, you say, and it is great for targeting because you can say, hey, only show this ad to employees of this company. I mean, do you get that granular when you talk about account-based targeting?
We get even more granular than that. LinkedIn is great. The biggest problem with LinkedIn is you have to have fairly large account lists in order to begin to serve ads into them. I can't remember what the exact number is, but I think it's around 300 accounts that you have to have at a minimum before you can target them. But with a tool like Terminus, you can actually target a single company, and you can say, okay, I want to show my ad to the senior decision makers in the marketing department, and it will serve targeted display advertising just to those people. And then you could serve a whole other set of ads to the C-suite within that organization as well.
Right. Very cool. And I mean, and it sounds easy, but I mean, there's some management in there. I mean, when should someone start at that level versus like if somebody's new or shifting gears right now, right? Obviously, this is a key time to shift gears. I mean, where would you say if somebody's worried about the future or they got to just really do kind of the bread and butter right now, where would they focus with their marketing efforts?
I would say that, first of all, make sure that you're not wasting anything. As of right now, of course, resources both internally and in terms of ad spend and other things like that are going to be a bit scarce. So, anything that you can do to really target your content and target your outreach are going to be the best performing. You don't want any bleed of that spend simply by, buying pay-per-click advertising. There's a potential that you can really kind of spend a lot of money and not necessarily have the right people see it, for example. So I think that getting to a list of folks that makes sense, that can actually, that look like your existing customer base, so that those are the kinds of people who have normally purchased from you, and then reaching out to them probably in a one-to-one sort of way where you are, figuring out a way to craft emails that are not going to be spammy, that that are going to be designed around helping other people, because we're all in this at the moment together. What can you do without looking like everybody else? How can you reach out to those people? Following up with phone, connecting with people on social media platforms, whether that's LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and beginning to craft those relationships. I mean, there's no question that these things are going to take some time, and you're probably going to need some more early wins in this as well. We have a lot of clients right now that are, beginning to turn their attention to that e-com platform that they've been planning to deploy for some time, but never really had the budget. Well, guess what? 70% of your marketing budget just got freed up because you can't do trade shows anymore. So, why not apply that to the development of an e-com platform that's going to service your lower spending customer base that previously couldn't have bought from you because your sales team only services accounts that are of a size X or Y large, right?
Yep.
So like we have a couple of clients that have e-com platforms that they use to serve their smaller clients. Whereas they, normally had an outside salesperson who dealt with their larger clients. So I think there's a lot of things that people can be doing right now in order to kind of bridge that gap and ensure that they're not going to be dry in 12 months. Everybody's worried about the next few months at this time. Here we are in March. But, where the rubber is really going to meet the road is 6, 12, 18 months down the road. And what have you done to plan for planting that seed that is going to pay off later? And, there's a lot of different tactics that you can deploy. It's a matter of kind of sitting back, figuring out what your strategy is, knowing who it is that you're going to sell to, and having the right things in place to service that.
Yeah. Very cool, man. So where do we send people? Who do you want coming to check you out? Huh? Manufacturers?
I'm happy to talk to anybody, but manufacturers are certainly our bread and butter, and the types of clients that we can help best. We certainly have a lot of expertise in that department, and we're at kulapartners.com, KULA partners.com.
Kula with a K. Very nice. Well, I will link to your Twitter, your Facebook, LinkedIn, even Skype. Look at you, man. I don't type so much anymore, but I appreciate your commitment to the old proven technologies.
It comes up every once in a while. Where the hell did my password go for Skype?
Yeah, really. Thank goodness all this is saved in the cloud. Oh man, very cool. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Cheers.
It's a good time to be in the manufacturing space. Things are coming back to North America and in a hurry because of this virus. So, where else are things going to be popping? That's what you need to be taking a look at, because this quarantine in place, shelter in place, it's going to be lifted sooner rather than later. The numbers are coming in better. The models have been proven to be pretty much crap. So get ready, okay? Even if it's been tough, I get it. The old adage, buy when there's blood in the street. But the second part of that is, even if the blood is yours, okay, you got to stay in the fight. Figure out your niche. Manufacturing could be a good one. All right. It helps if you have some type of an affinity, a reason to be in a particular niche, if you have a story. But regardless, that could be a good one. Okay. I love the approach. He's talking about how you can make big sales, big B2B sales in this remote virtual environment. I have. Even when I was in corporate America, I would travel and see people face to face, but, work from home. I did as much as I could over the phone. That was before social media, before video cameras, before video phones and smartphones and FaceTime and whatever. I did as much as I could remotely because I wanted to minimize my travel, and I had to maximize my efforts when I did travel. But, since 2007, I've been on my own, closing deals from home, big deals in B2B sales. You can absolutely do it. So, I love what we talked about, 3D printing. We talked about M&As going to heat up because there's going to be, some that make it and some don't. And there's going to be buying acquisitions. So mergers and acquisitions are going to be happening. Do you work in that space? So much good stuff coming out of this, even with my shallow, tinny voice on my iMac internal speaker. So, but sometimes, you're too close. You can't see the forest for the trees. You can't read the label from inside the bottle. I hire people to help me. Having that neutral third party look from the outside, it's a big help. Okay, so if you need some advice, some free advice, theimplementors.com. It's our free Facebook group. If you want to ask questions, if you want my videos, my workbook, my more in-depth thinking, if you want Q&A live every week with me on Mondays, 30daysalesgrowth.com. Come join us, all right? It's half off right now with promo code April. Month to month or annual. You get to decide. And remember that you're always in control. It's your choice, whatever is going on. Choose wisely, my friend. Now go sell something.